Hey, Jacqueline.
Hi, Beth. I'm
How you
trying to
doing?
figure out my video. Oh my gosh, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Today's better.
Yeah.
The sun's out, so.
Yes. I had a rough time yesterday.
Yesterday was really, really rough, and Greg even was so sweet to call me in the afternoon
Yeah.
to see how I was, because I was just like, we need something, Casey, to like start Mondays off, because I feel like Wednesdays has a good, like with Lucas, and then like I look forward to virtual happy hour.
Yeah. I
So
missed
feel
last week.
Oh gosh, yeah, it was long. But I feel, I don't know. I just told them I feel like Sundays, I need to get back in the groove. So like we talked today and we're changing our team meeting.
Yeah.
Same thing. So I just need a jump start.
Oh, I hear you. I think it's like, okay, here we go again. Another week of the same.
Get outside and live the life.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'm sitting here thinking about what I want to, have a drink of.
Hey, Jordan.
Hello.
Jordan.
On the way to a closing, so.
Well,
Nice.
that's good.
Now, done. How are you ladies doing?
Doing good.
Fantastic.
Hello.
What are you doing in the office, Greg?
Living on the edge.
Quarantine else is there, so he's got big office space himself.
I should have come to say hello. I was actually in there for a few minutes.
Yeah, I was probably not here when you were.
Okay.
I just got in at like 12 or something.
I came to grab my monitor and a few things.
Oh, that's funny. I came
Come
in
to my new office space. It's too noisy upstairs.
Yeah, I brought back a monitor and printer.
Yeah, I was just there the other day getting like my mouse and a couple books and yeah, just migrating everything.
Yep.
And everybody, Joe said he's going to be just a couple of minutes late, and then he's going to hop on.
Cool. I'm gonna get water then.
So today is going to be about pricing ahead of the market, because I don't know if y'all been seeing people ask questions and post about it, but the listings are sitting a little bit longer
Yep.
already. So we're going to talk about how we can prevent that. How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. A good day. Let me send out the invite to everybody.
Thanks for doing
There's
that. I
Joe.
really like that.
Casey.
Hello.
Oh, hang on. Let me take that off. There we go.
You driving a race car?
That's what it
Yeah,
sounds
I
like,
think
doesn't
Jordan
it?
needs to slow down.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, go get him, Jordan.
It's a stupid Nissan transmission. It doesn't actually have gears, so it always sounds like it's revving.
You just keep telling us that. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So, are we
The
ready?
fact that my weight name is Mile High Speedster means nothing.
Well, hey, this is a small group, so we'll make it intimate. From the last time we did this, we got together, we talked about your listings and focusing on listings. And I'm just curious about, did I also talk with you, because I've had a chance to go over with several market centers about some different strategies. Did we also talk about how to front load our listings for the month of May? Did we go over that at all?
I don't think so.
I don't remember that.
Okay. But before we get in there, let me just ask you, what are your beliefs about the market right now as far as what's happening out there? What do you believe about what's happening?
Things are still happening.
Say more.
Yes.
Alexandria.
People are still buying and selling.
People are definitely still buying or selling. And great. What else?
A lot of realtors believe that people aren't buying and selling. So
There's a lot of realtors who believe people are not buying or selling. Correct.
yeah.
Did we talk about 2 weeks ago, right? Did we talk about, because I know I did a session with the market. That's where I'm having this kind of little bit of a deja vu. Did we talk about, and if y'all were on it, when we went to page 156 in the shift book, did we do that? Y'all recall?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Go to page 156 in the shift book. Okay, those are the 7 maximums. Casey, why don't you read off the first one? That's one that's going to really matter a lot for what we're talking about.
Be a student of your market. Know your numbers.
Okay, I'm waiting for Alexandria to come back. She was cool enough to go find hers.
That's actually one of our agents that leads a mastermind asked me if we could teach next week. Could we teach the numbers and how to interpret them and what they're going to mean?
That by the way,
Something we're doing
whoever
next
said
week.
that, kudos to them. Sometimes I make it. I shared that on I think last week when we did the Friday Southeast Market Center deal. We talked about how to be able to interpret the meaning of those numbers so that you can share that story with the sellers. Okay. So, by the way, I want to get agreements with you all. Here's the first agreement I'd like to make sure, and that is the time I'm going to spend with you. Don, thank you. I saw the word fear. The time that I'm going to spend with us and what we're going to spend together is that let's make sure that we're doing this, that we're taking advantage of this time and how we work together as a group. Is that fair enough?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm only going to give you things that really mattered most when we're in this shift, like what we're experiencing now. Okay. This is, and Brooke knows me. I know some of your faces. This is my 4th shift we're going through. And mine was all in Denver, Colorado. That's where my team was based and all that. So let's go to number 1. Read it again, because this is really important. Be
a student of your market. Know your numbers.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about what it means to be a student of the market. Here's what it requires. That you should be looking at well, let's start with the beginning. First of all, you should be looking at actives, pendings, and solds. And and by the way, and it means nothing. It means nothing until you have a framework, right? A baseline where you're going to work this off of. So when you look at that, you can go back and look at the multi-year trend over the last couple of years and look at what's sold and was on the market and how you can see the solds that occurred through the marketplace, okay, year over year. And now you starting to have a story to tell your sellers. Another thing you can look at is when you look at the actives, because what we don't know is the actives, is that more than normal or is it not? So what's one of the determining factors? How do we determine if actives are going up or not?
Wouldn't it be we have to track it to know if it's going up?
Say that again?
We would have to track it to know if it's going up or to look at the year-over-year trend.
We'd have to track it, and we're going to look at the days on market. Have they been trending up? Because if the days on market are trending up, I can guarantee you the number of active homes are going to be going up with that, right? So we can look at the baseline on that. Now, what's fascinating, and I shared this with some teams or with groups last week. I had a gentleman, I didn't ask the numbers yesterday when I was coaching him. What he did is he's in New York, New Jersey. Okay, I got 2 teams I'm coaching in there, and here's what his story is. So 309 homes went on the market in 1 week where they are in the New Jersey area. 315 homes went under contract. 315 homes went under contract. So he's got a story already to say to the seller, but he wants to get a better story. The best thing he could do is go back and trend over what's been happening the last 12 months and look at what's occurred with the number of actives that have been on the market, number of homes that have sold, and be able to see the trends of what's occurred. And now he's got a story to tell the seller, doesn't he? For the seller says, you know what? I want to wait till COVID-19. I'm really not worried about my health as much as I just don't want to be hassled with people come through my house and no one's coming through it. And it's not going to sell during that period of time. Okay. I'm not going to address today, Casey, if it's okay, the realtors who don't believe it would sell. I go back to, and do y'all remember when I shared with you about how just simple neurosciences about the thing we learned as coaches called the story? Do y'all remember that model? Okay. I like Brooke. Thank you, Brooke. Brooke gave me the honest answer, yes. And I get a stoic look from some of the rest. So the story model goes to following. And you can do it just like a clock, second hand on a clock. The story is what we say it is. Okay, so let's be clear about that. If you want to write this down, because this is going to work with all of your clients. And if you have a team, it's going to work with the people on your team. and it works on yourself too, by the way, because you can catch yourself. The first one is something happens. That's at 12 o'clock. So something happens. At the 2 o'clock, I have a response. I make a response or I have a response. At the 4 o'clock, I form a judgment. I form a judgment. At the 6 o'clock, I make up my story. So now I make up my story. I make up a story for what's happened, my judgment upon it. At the 8 o'clock, I search for evidence. And at the 10 o'clock, it predicts my future. So Casey, to address with agents that say there's not home selling or nothing's really selling, that's their story. What has happened is something's happened. They've made a response. They formed a judgment. Look, see, this house didn't sell. That one, they go, oh, no homes are selling, right? I went literally right across the hallway and I talked to Brooke. Okay, we're not doing the hallway anymore. I literally picked up the phone and I talked to Brooke. And she said, nothing's selling. See, that confirmed my belief. And therefore, my story is I searched for my evidence. She gave me my evidence. My story is valid, which predicts my future. Why do anything? You know what? Maybe I will do some things. I will start tweaking around, play with some stuff, and I'll wait for the market to come back. And that's my story. And as I shared last week when I gave you all those 4 words we're working off of, remember mindset, systems, skills, and commitment. One of the stories was about when I was in my shift in 2008, especially, it was very painful to watch the number of agents who said that story and are no longer in the business. So we went from 1.2 million realtors in the market to 800,000. And a lot of them we saw go away in Denver, Colorado. And these were good agents, by the way. They were doing 10 million in business, that kind of thing. They were having a good life, right? And they went away. And by the way, it didn't happen overnight. It was a whole thing gradually. Then suddenly they were gone because they couldn't earn the money. Their story was the market would get better. Have you been saying that to yourself?
Yep.
Like things will change. It'll get better. The answer is, I don't know. And here's the thing I do know though. In a shift, it's never the same. Mm-hmm. So what you did and what got you there to what your success is, wherever that is today, will not be the same tactics that are going to work going in the future. And if you don't believe me, talk to people like myself who watch so many agents leave this business because of that, or find a second job. And then they left. And some stood around, but they never did. They never came back in real estate the same way they did before. So go back and answer the question is we're talking about is listings, and we're talking about being a student of the market. So what it means to be a student in the market is that you go look back at the trends, and then if you really want to be a student, you should daily just check in and then weekly do a review about how you've been seeing the trend really play out, right? So daily I'll be checking in how many more homes came on the market. And now, by the way, I could go global, meaning I would do all of Denver Metro. Only reason why, because we don't know who we're going to be talking with sometimes. And now I can just have a global where that's occurring. And then I'm going to go local, like the areas where we specialize in, where my database is. And then I'm going to pop those areas up. I'm going to grid it out. and I'm just going to have to search it back and just say how many homes is sold in the last week. I could say how many homes, then I could look back at my old trends, how many homes sold in the month of April. And I can already start to see some trends going on there, like how many homes are active. And I can look back in the trends and what occurred in March, because we already know, especially in Denver, it's a little cyclical, seasonal, I should say. And the season is that we have that season where it's slower during the times of the wintertime, that December, January, February-ish, and then it takes up, right? But the key thing is with this shift, it's changed our season and our seasonality. So now with those of us who thought we would just ride it out till the season would show up, surprise. And I mean that, surprise. We're all having to deal with what we have now. This is what this hopefully does is become a great reminder of how I choose to show up every day and not bet on the future of what I think might happen, but perform in the moment where I want to predict happens. So when we talk about front loading our business, now I'm going to become a student of the business. And so now I understand my numbers. I call up Casey. No, I'm going to use someone different than Casey. I'm going to call, is it Jacqueline?
Yes.
Hey, Jacqueline.
Hi.
So is who I share, who I share is what does that say? Who I share it with? Is that what it says behind you?
Oh, yes. What I love about my home is who I share it with.
Oh, very cool. And right now you're sharing us with Zoom. So I feel right at home. So let's look at this. By the way, are you okay if I'm eating lunch right now while we're doing all this? Okay, thank you. I'll try not to be messy. So now, Jacqueline, here's the thing. I call you and I say, hey, and Jacqueline, by the way, you've inquired like you're looking at wanting to sell your house. And you simply tell me no, that you want to wait till the buyer. So that's your objection, okay? That's you're objecting to that. So just go ahead and give me that.
Oops, you cut out. I want to tell you what?
Oh, tell me that you want to go ahead and wait until after this is over with the virus. You don't want to do anything right now.
Okay. I want to wait to sell my house until I have a buyer.
Do you have a buyer? Tell me more about that. What do you mean by that, Jacqueline?
I feel like with the market right now that people aren't looking, and I'm afraid that if I do sell, that nobody will come because of the shutdown.
So what I heard you say is you sense that no one's looking right now, and that even if you did put your house out there, now you're not having anyone come see the house, and it doesn't make sense. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. So if you knew that was not true and there was another actually reality happening in the marketplace, would that change your opinion about what you would want to do with the house?
It depends what that would entail.
Sure. Say more about that. What is it? What do you say? It depends on what it entails. What would that be?
What would you offer to help get buyers in looking at my property?
So if I hear you correctly, sorry about that. I should have just waited. So if I hear you correctly, tell me more when you say what do I have to offer to get buyers to come to your house?
So since they can't come into my property, what will you be providing to them, to the market, so my property is out there?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd love to answer that for you. My answer is we're doing it all the time. So knowing that, am I hearing you saying, are you ready to go ahead and let's go? If I can show you those things and you know for certainty that you can have your house exposed to buyers and you could get it sold, would you go ahead and do that?
I would highly consider that, yes.
Okay, what would take you from considering to go ahead and move forward?
I think I'd have to see the presentation of what that
you
would be offering me versus another agent.
Great. And so there's another agent offering something for you too?
Potentially.
Potentially. Great. I appreciate that. So if I'm hearing you, then really basically let's just do this. You got your calendar in front of you?
I do.
Okay, let's schedule time. How about I'm looking tomorrow. I have availability between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Do any of those times work for you tomorrow?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, perfect. And before we get together on Zoom, we'll just do that, by the way, because that way we'll both be able to see each other as we're having this conversation to sell your home. And as you go through the process and you look at choosing someone like me or whoever you pick, the key thing is you'll want to get to see the details of what I can do to sell your home. Does that make sense?
That does.
Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna stop there because my job was just to set the appointment. Okay, observations just on that first of all.
It was just perceived objections. They weren't real objections.
They right, for her they were real, but for us they were
Yeah.
perceived. Agreed. What else?
I was
She
going to say
noted-
something. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Brooke. Brooke
I
and
was
Beth.
Ah! You answered her questions. You didn't even have to tell a story. You just answered with what you would do to provide her a solution for her concern.
Well, Kat, very good catch. Agreed. Didn't have to. I didn't have to do that. Beth, what else?
Yeah, same thing. She just wanted to know you had a plan on
Yeah.
how to do it.
So here's what when I shared with y'all last week about the skills, hard skills and soft skills, and one of the things that gets exposed immediately is our skills that are not there. And as you notice, I didn't make any assumptions. I wasn't going to handle her objection completely until I really understood what she was really dealing with. And actually, I was thinking she was going to go further with me and say, I don't want anyone in my house. I'm like, let's go there. But she didn't even go there. I was willing to go take it wherever it was. The thing that you caught, Brooke, was that could you not tell my confidence when I responded to her about like, I didn't even know you could find a buyer. Like, oh, we're doing that all the time.
Yeah.
And I just got quiet and let her sit with that.
Mhm.
So I took care of that. And that's when I went a little further. If you knew, then I went to the, if you knew, and blah, blah, blah. And then I connected that. And then she said, oh, there's this other thing. And I went, okay, great. And then we figured that out. And oh, there's this other thing. Okay, now that we got that, then let's go ahead and schedule the appointment. And if y'all listen to it, when I did that script with her, I gave her, especially at the end, I think 4 embedded commands in that world. And I did for her. So, what's important about that is I wanted her to choose me, like me, trust me, and then we're going to also feel certain, you'll feel certain about what we're going to do next. Whatever words you choose to use with those in type of commands, right now, especially when that gives her some certainty, like, oh, okay, there's automatically things that are occurring in this dialogue that she's not even aware, her unconscious mind's picking up. That's the importance of embedded commands, right? Okay, so front loading listings. Here's the deal. She says no. I want to wait till the virus is done. I asked Jacqueline, I'm going to just go ahead and play this out. I said, Jacqueline, what's important about waiting? I understand what's happening. I just don't want anyone in my house. I have an elderly parent and I can't have them, or I have little kids. I don't want to take any chance that someone might be walking with it because we don't know who's really the carrier and who's not. And I would tell Jacqueline, I completely respect that. So when you know that shelter in place is released at that time, which we believe is going to happen the first week of May, would you be willing to list your home at that time? And at that moment, she says, yeah, I'm ready to go. I just want to make sure, because then at that point I will feel more comfortable. I would be willing to go, but there's still some caveats, meaning I want people to wear a mask. I want the gloves, blah, blah, blah. Great. So if we know that, by the way, we're already doing that for all of our clients. Didn't the other realtor offer that to you? And now what I've done is help create a little doubt, because she only had to say yes or no, or no, they didn't bring it up. Okay. So now in her mind, she already knows this is part of our protocol we're doing for COVID-19. You see what I'm doing with her in this conversation. I want to make sure y'all are watching the patterns when I'm building out with her in this relationship. Okay. Like, I already know I'm her realtor. I just need to decide, does it make sense for me to work with her? Because if she's super unreasonable, I don't know if I want my team to go work with her, because now it means she's going to take away too much time for me to go find 2 people I could go do business with, where she's only going to give me 1. Does this make sense? Remember, we're agents. We're in control of this. And if you believe the moment, well, like, Joe, you don't know my world. I have no 10s, no 9s in the pipeline. My best ones I have are 7s and below. Well, and at that moment, that fear comes across and gets projected on the phone. It just does. So what do you do to stop that? You change the story. Remember, we started beginning with, oh, that's not the story. But we started in the beginning with the story model. Mm-hmm. If you choose to say a different story about, hey, I'm clear and confident I am the right realtor for them, and I get to choose who I want, even at this time, especially at this time, that I want to work with this type of seller. And I describe the seller who I'm working with. They're cooperative. They're willing to be coachable about what's happening in the marketplace. They're motivated. So now I describe the sellers I'm looking for. If we recall from BOLD, that becomes the reticular activating system, the RAS, and it only picks up those type of people that we're looking for, and they are picking up that with you too. Do you all believe that happens? Have y'all been through BOLD? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So then y'all know you know how that works. By the way, that's still in the neuroscience world. Okay, so now what I'm going to offer to Jacqueline is this. Jacqueline, so let me ask you, do you want to, when you get your house on the market, do you want to get the most money for your house?
Absolutely.
Great. So, and I do too, by the way. In fact, that's exactly what I do for clients, my clients, just like you. Okay. So here's what I'd like to offer to you. And by the way, it works really simply this way. We're going to do all the preliminary work ahead of time, meaning we'll have photos taken. We'll have all these things are done that they're not intrusive to you. And yet we get all that work done. So literally the day when you say, Joe, go put it on the market, I immediately flip the switch and we have now your house on the market, which means now we have a flood of buyers and we beat our competition to it. May I explain?
Yes, please.
See, most sellers are not like you. They're willing to, and they don't have realtors like myself who are having this conversation with you about helping you educate what's happening in the marketplace. And here's what I mean. It's simply this. Those sellers are going to wait. And now they hear that the shelter in place has been released. And now they're ready to start doing the activities to get their house to put it on the market. If you chose to do it now, what will occur for you is you'll have all that done. Those sellers who come out will be a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks later. And if you have a flood of buyers and not a lot of sellers out, what does that do for your house?
Hopefully a quick sale.
Yeah, well, think about it this way. It's a lot like an auction. If you have one item, you have a bunch of bidders, what does it do to that item?
Increases the value.
There you go. And that's exactly what I'm going to do for you. So that's it. So here's what we're going to do. So when I'm on the call with you tomorrow at Wednesday at what time would we say?
4 p.m.
That's what I got. 4 o'clock. And we go over that together and you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your home and the techniques we're going to do. Would you be ready to go ahead and sign the contract after we go through the process?
Yes.
Perfect. And now we're done. So what have I done? Give me some other observations.
You basically led her to fix her own problem voluntarily.
Yep. Definitely helped her. I helped solve the questions that she had in her mind. Absolutely. What else?
I would say you educated her on the current situation and what it's going to do when she waits.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely did. So it gave her the expectation. She knew now that she could actually maximize the house and get it sold for her. Anything else? I know the rest of you are on mute. I don't see your faces. And it might be where you're located, but feel free to either text something on chat, or if you want to, come online and say something. Is that fair enough? Or are you all just in here to take notes for the rest of you down below? Okay.
They're all in their pajamas.
They're all in their pajamas still. There you go. All right. Hey, we could all have pajamas on and just have our professional part up top. So here's what I look at. So, and that is the last thing is what's the game you want to play? In other words, how many homes, how many sellers that you should be in conversations with right now to go hit that goal. So there's a team I shared last week that their goal is to list 37 homes in the month of, which beats their record of 36 the month before they've ever done before. So they listed 14 homes this last week, and this week 4 homes so far, all with the same type of tactic where we're just talking about. They have a clear plan. They call it, in fact, there's another team I'll share with you that they're behind on their listings, and they just put the safe seller protocol in place. So, and it's all this is, it's just the next phase of their protocol. They called it the COVID-19 protocol. I shared with y'all on the call last week, if you remember the week before, which was on the systems. They had a clear system about how they were operating as a team, right? When they were showing up together to go lead generate, when they did their stand up, when they were role playing, all of that. You saw how that was all laid out. Well, this is the next step in their protocol, which is the safe seller program. And all they're doing is exactly what I just did with you. And they're having multiple conversations. In fact, when I say multiple, the goal is to have, for their listing specialist, is to have 35 contacts a day, not calls, contacts on that a day. That's what they're averaging right now. He wants to get it up to 40 because we're still behind goal on the listings game that we're playing. Okay. So that's the biggest thing. When we look at it, is what is your system that you're doing right now to put that in play? And I want to hear what, in fact, feel free to say, I am struggling with this. I don't know if I can connect the dots. Or if you're saying, I get it, here's what I'm committed to. Please give me your feedback.
I'll start. I get it, and I'm gonna up my game. I've been doing 20 contacts a day and writing cards, just check-in cards and putting them in the mail. However, I just wrote down 35.
Love that. Alexandria, a question for you.
Yes.
Do you know your conversion numbers?
I do. Most of my business is referral based, so I pretty much get everything, but I now know that I need to be expanding to people that I don't know in this
Cool.
pandemic, you should say.
Yeah. So first of all, love that. And that means you just got to open up your database a little beyond your database to go find what you need to hit your goals with. Agreed with that. The other conversion numbers I'd like you to think about or consider is this, is if your goal is to say, Joe, my intention is to list 7 homes in the month of April. And I know that it takes me to have 60 or 50 contacts to set one appointment. And it takes me 100 contacts to get a listing agreement. Then I know that in order for me to do that, I'm going to average a little over 125, 130 contacts on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So that I can get my 7, because that's my conversion numbers right now. So I get better skilled at converting that seller over quicker. So I don't have to take that so many contacts. Who's Tesla? You might need to mute yourself. There's some background noise going on there. So, okay, great. Thank you for that, Alexandria. What else? You might mute that.
I can't. I'm not the. Greg has to do it. I'm not the.
Oh, Greg. Greg, you're able to do that. Can you, this late? I'm sure I'm butchering that name. Silate? Is it maybe T silent? Okay, so who else? Well, we'll just kind of ignore that as that Greg gets that figured out.
I can go. I just sent her a message to mute herself, so maybe she'll see that. Yeah, mine is very similar to Alexandria's. I'm doing the same thing, calling my database, writing note cards. I'll say there's been 2 areas that I've been a little overwhelmed with, is just being on all these Zoom calls and having my list of 20 items, like kind of what Lance Loken talked about, the 20 areas of business that we need to shift virtual and digital.
Yep.
You know, I've got my list. I will tell you, I'm paralyzed with, holy crap, like I'm not techie. Where do I start? So I know I've just got to prioritize and then identify one thing to just go to town and do, you know, that's kind of what I'm doing.
And Brooke, you start with maybe not with you. And this is what I mean by that. What Lance Loken's really clear about that is, ask Lance Loken the question, how many are you personally doing of those things? I'll probably tell you 1 out of the 20.
Yeah. And I just said to my assistant today, I said, let's get some time on the calendar to talk through these and figure out how we can divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. And then another one that just was kind of.
Before we go there, may I throw another thought too?
Yes.
Ask your assistant, say, how can I get out of your way so this can happen more rapidly? Because I know I'm plugging things up.
Yes. And I'm good at that. So yeah.
Oh, by the way, you're not the only one. I have that craft too. And asking your assistant to help you get out of the way will be a big deal. Go ahead.
I like that. I'm writing that down. How can I get out of your way?
Yep.
And then the second one kind of shocked me. I had a listing appointment Saturday morning with a past client, and I'm usually not shaken when people ask me for a commission reduction, because my answer is usually no. Mm-hmm. Even if it means we don't do business together. But I will say I had a fear that popped up inside of me at that moment, because normally it's like, okay, you want a discount broker? I'm not your gal, next. But to be honest, my next pile is not what it used to be. And I visibly, I felt like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this question right now. I got through it, but it was just a shocking revelation of the fear that we all might be feeling. Maybe it's just me.
Back to Don's comment about fear, and you're correct. I don't think you're alone with fear. And there's different ways how we choose to handle with that fear. One is you can deny it, which is the worst thing you could do, because it'll just show up like that at a listing appointment. And all of a sudden, by the way, they'll pick it up. We think we're dancing around it well enough. And if they're perceptive at all, they're typically picking up, there's something there. They don't know what that is, but they know something's off. So one thing is you've got to get settled and a piece about what you're saying, your way you're going to operate right now at this point, right? And if you're saying my goal is to take 7 homes, take 7 listings, and today is the 20th and I only have 3, you might be saying I'm going to change my standard as far as my commission rate is and go take more listings on because I choose not to deviate from my goal of taking 7, because I know in the long run 7 is going to give me more of a market share at this moment. I'm not saying cut your commission. I'm saying you make a personal business, or not personal, you make a business choice on this. My coach had me do that period of time, and it pissed me off. And excuse me, it just came out. You can still tell. And it was the best thing, because I was not actually pissed at him. I was pissed at myself because I was not doing the right activities for the first 2 weeks of the month to set myself up for success for the rest of the week. Because I told myself a story. Oh, it'll all come together. And then all of a sudden the seller said, we're going to wait a week or 2, or we're going to wait 2 more months from now, or whatever the story was. I didn't calculate those things. And I think Casey, of all people, as a TL, can probably relate to this world when it comes to agents saying, yeah, they're ready. And then only to say, we're going to pause. And so you're banking on them. And that's a shame on me. I should not be banking on anybody. I need to have that pipeline so full. So that's part of it. And so be settled with the fact that either that or option B is, no, I don't deviate from my standard. I will not negotiate my commission. So when they bring it up, I'll say, you know what, I'm so glad you still brought that up. I actually have been thinking about it, because as what you just said, Brooke, to me is the same thing I'm noticing. There's becoming a lot more desperate agents doing desperate things at this time in the moment. And my question for you is, do you want a desperate agent who's willing to negotiate that quickly in their commission to sell your house?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, see, and so all I'm going to do is create the back for them a little fear of, yeah, no, I agree with you. At the time, you need someone like me who's going to stand in the gap for you and fight for your price. And you do want a bulldog, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's my normal response. That's why this
Sure.
shocked me when I'm like, oh, I'm fumbling around. I'm like, what is wrong with me right now?
Well, because you're not settled. And so the best thing you could do is go get settled with what your philosophy or your business, what you're saying, making a statement about your business, like how I'm going to operate. And you just do that from that point forward.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you. That helps.
Yeah, whatever way. And that means if I only take 1 listing, then guess what? That means that you're not prospecting enough, creating enough, or you're not spending enough time in there on that dollar productive activities to make that happen for you.
Yeah, I think the other revelation that this magnifies is, for me, I've been 99% referral based from my database. And so the last 6 months, I've been going outside my database, expireds, withdrawn, some other lead sources.
Good.
So this whole situation, our databases are just not going to move the way they typically have. So this magnifies the importance of needing to develop additional lead sources.
Yeah, in fact, you nailed it, Brooke. Thank you for bringing that up. There it is. It's on my table. Hey, grab your shift book. For those who have it. I'm to sound like a broken record, and I'm unshamefully happy to keep on doing this. Go to page 55. Who's got it? Who's there at page 55? Say it. Got it.
Got it.
Got it.
Okay, Alexander. Who said got it first? I heard some woman's voice.
May, Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, great. Do me a favor, Jacqueline. I want you to read where in the middle of the paragraph. No, actually, just read that whole paragraph right above the words. So when it says, if you haven't already been tracking, so read that.
If you haven't already been tracking this, get out paper and pen and do the following exercise. Write down your top 10 sources of leads. This could be individuals who send you referrals, or it could be any method you currently use. What you're trying to answer is, where do my leads come from? Next, right beside each one, Each one, the number of valid leads or closing that lead has brought you. Then prioritize them by numbering them from 1 to 10, with 1 being the most demonstrably effective, 10 being the least. Take the bottom 5 and stop allocating time or money to them and aim all your resources to the top 5 that are working. Note, the total number isn't as important as the idea of only working the most effective ones. Do this every month because effectiveness is an ongoing and never-ending process of evaluation and adjustment to find the sweet spot, the lead source zone that's working for you.
Okay, so Brooke, what happened was in the last shift, there were a lot of agents, the ones I was sharing with you, who were hoping and waiting and wishing that things would be the way they were the good old days. And their whole business was really on 2 parts of sources: agent referrals, which went away. And the second one was that was from their database and how they were working with their database. And the number of the database, where it was basically I'm making up a number, let's say 10 to 1 for every 10 people I was talking to, someone was going to be, they either knew someone or they were being the person who was going to buy or sell real estate. And now all of a sudden it's gone from a 10 to 1 ratio to a 200 to 1 ratio overnight. And yet I didn't change my tactics, meaning how I was going to connect with my database and how many more people I needed to have a conversation with that day just to let alone hit my goal for that week. So they didn't make that deviation, and they didn't add any other sources of business because they refused to go there. Maybe they wanted to do an open house, and yet when you have a plethora of listings, and if you can imagine, at one point we were at 30,000 listings, almost 30,000 listings back in 2009, 2008. Let me say it again, almost 30,000 listings. And we were not well, I take that back. We were probably, a third, least less of the population back in that era. And that many homes were on the market. An open house was a joke. Why'd we ever do that? There's a house right next door on the market. I can look at anything I want. The last thing the buyers would care to do is start looking out there. It was just like, I pick you maybe, and we'll see. That was our world. So again, if you didn't deviate and change the way you were acting in the marketplace, you got eliminated one way or the other. So that's why when you share that, I love what you did, because it's going to be really important that we look through this list and we put down what are our 5 top sources. And you might even say, I need to go discover, I only have 4 or 3, I've realized. The other ones are like they're barely coming in. And I got to make a choice at that point. Either I'm going to go spend more time on creating that business from that source, and I'll make up something, let's say probates. And I'm going to go start developing those relationships, because I believe that's a business that's going to increase because of what's happening in the marketplace. And so I'm going to start meeting with 3 or 4, X amount of attorneys. And ultimately out of that, I'll get the other people who they know, and I'll start building that number 5 to become eventually 4, 3, maybe, who knows, 2 and 1 out of my major source of business, because the market shifted to that favor. Doesn't change the relationship. I'm still doing my database, and yet my focus and my energy and my time, I'm giving it to something else, because that's going to ultimately run for me. And you won't know that until you spend the time in there. You can speculate, right? So people speculated back in 2008 and 7 about short sales and REOs. And some people said, I would never do that. That's below me. Well, cool. Now you got to go make adjustments, because either you're going to spend 8 hours a day lead generating and then figure out the next 2 hours who are the appointments you're going on because what you're doing, or you go change the sources of business where you don't have to spend 8 hours of lead generation. Either way, it's up to you, right? That's the market's the market, as Gary says. It doesn't matter if it's a buyer or seller market, it's about you adapting to it. So again, front loading your listings. One of the strategies to do is, what's the best tactics? Well, we did some scripting. We talked about some things that you can position yourself in that way. Now, the key thing is, who should you be talking to? I have another team that they'll do 400 plus transactions, and one of their rainmakers on the team, she thought 5 years ago she would never have to call another for sale by owner. And last week when we went there, she cried. And this is a woman who does not cry. I mean, she cries about as much as I do, maybe once every 2-3 years. And she just lost it. And I said, I got it. I said, what do you want to do about it? And after a while, we went through it all. And she realized, I'm going to have to accept this as being part of my new life again. I think this is beneath me and all this other stuff. And yet she got over it. And what's so funny was, so we got on the call this week, And it was a different woman on the call. She wasn't sad, dragging, or anything else. She was energetic. And I asked her what changed. She said, I accepted it. I accepted my new reality. And here's what happened. I got 4 appointments set now with for sale by owners that I never thought I would be able to, I would not ever want to call them again. It didn't take me long to get my spirits back down and warm back up and get into it. And then I realized that these for sale by owners actually can be a big source of business. And all of a sudden, at the end of our call, we were changing her goal for her hitting a goal for putting under contracts and listings and additional listings she was going to add to her list. And you should have seen her energy. It was like, oh yeah, and I could go do this, because I just asked her a simple question. What can we do to double the number pending this month from what you had set your original goal? And she immediately went, I could go do this, this, and this, because she accepted her new reality. So my question for you all is, what's the reality for you that you need to accept now? Not next week, not tomorrow, but even now when we finish this call, that you're going to get settled peace with and realize this is your new norm. And I would love to hear if anyone wants to share it. I'd love to hear it while we're on the call.
I have one because I realize I've told myself stories like I can't cook, but now I'm in my house in a pandemic and have to cook 3 meals a day. And I'm actually pretty good at it. I would have paid money for my sandwich from Panera the other day. Anyways, my next story around this is like, I'm not techie. And so I have to I have to create a news story and accept the reality that I've got to dive into tech at a level that I've not ever had to dive into. I've hidden behind the telephone and in-person events and been this social person, and now I have to dive into tech, and I'm open to that.
Yep. And by leveraging that out and learning the part you need to know, I mean, like for example, there's people paying 97 cents a lead on command and they're getting deals done. 97 cents just for the friggin' lead. That's so cheap. I mean, really? 97 cents? Think about it. $14.97. $20.97. $2. $14. I'll take that number any day when we're buying leads. Okay? And that's part of what Command's doing right now. Love that. What else? I want to hear from you. What are you going to get settled with?
Hey, say that again.
What are you going to, thank you for that. I'll slow down. What are you going to get settled with? What is it that you're choosing now? This is going to be my new norm, a resource, whatever that is, that you're going to go identify and say, I'm going to get settled with now with the 7 maximums. I'm going to first become a student of the market. And then, by the way, you never have to tell anyone I'm the expert by you just literally communicating with them about what's interpreting the market. Here's what it means with the trends, what it means to you, Jacqueline, why you should sell now rather than wait 4 months is the fact of these things. And now you give them the facts. Well, is it a fact? I'm calling it to be a fact, so therefore it's a fact. Does this make sense? Again, I'm implanting words in their brain. I understand what I'm doing with them on the NLP side. Okay, let's hear from someone else.
Probably more getting into design and Facebook and social media for me.
Say more about that, Jorge.
Try to capture leads that way.
So capture leads through the internet.
Command. Yep.
Command, more specifically. Great. So, and getting intentional about what's required for the money you choose to spend and what's the return off that investment, at least a 4 times return, right? We learned that out of the MREA.
Yes.
Okay.
So next week we are doing 2 trainings on Facebook. Number 1 is raising your organic Facebook edge rank, so your posts get out there to more people, and that'll be 9:30. Jacqueline, we're going to get at 9:30 on Monday to kick off the week.
Ooh, thanks.
We're all sitting at home, we're able to raise our social media profile a lot. Number 2, we're going to do another Facebook ads design course, like designs through Command and how to set the campaign.
Is that with Leslie on Wednesday?
No.
Okay.
But it's going to basically be a recap of Leslie's going to teach something else next week.
Okay.
It's
Her
gonna be us
landing
basically.
page class last week was really good. And I think she's
Yeah.
doing something else on Facebook ads this week. So her stuff
It
was
is. Yeah. It will be on Facebook ads again this week. Next week, we're going to use it to get everybody to utilize it. Like build it. While we're here on the Zoom together, build it in your command. Show us, activate it.
I
Oh,
love that.
wow.
Thank you. I love
Go
it.
Casey. Make us do it right there.
Yes.
Now you see why I'm an owner in this office.
Yes, and we appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Oh, well, I appreciate you all. That's why I do this. So, hey, besides being a realtor for 26 years and an owner and blah, 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 and then this is the Southeast office. It's its time, meaning that we're going to attract the best talent coming in. And
Yes.
it won't be the stepchild it was in the past. And I know that because I've been in this market forever. And I know the quality of men and women like you all that are coming in. Yeah, it's going to be fun. This is going to be our time to shine.
I want to share one more thing. I'm going to go over this again probably next week. This is something I learned from Jason Abrams last week. Like, you can see my background. Basically, use your background to mimic to follow your script. And I did this with one of my friends yesterday who's thinking about selling his house. And I went through it and we did exactly this. It's like, man, the market is still hot. I mean, there are literally buyers standing in line right now to get into these houses because they have to wait. Now it's going to be virtual. So there's going to be 3 things that we're doing differently with your house, though, than anybody else. Number 1, we're going to do a 3D tour. And that 3D tour of your house is just, it's going to set it apart. They're going to be able to walk through it completely. Number 2, we're going to do virtual open houses and virtual showings, virtual tours. They're going to be able to see it right from their phone. So that's something that not everybody has adapted to yet, and we've adapted to it quickly. Number 3, if we go into your home, anybody goes into your home, an inspector, anybody, they're going to be safe. I don't know if you can see it. But they're going to be dressed safely and everything's going to be taken care of. So we're going to get you in the game. And we're going to make sure you can get your house sold. So just make it follow. And then they were like, how are you doing that? And I was like, well, we're also a technology company. So we have a program that listens to me talk and it pulls up the pictures for me. He's like, really? I'm like, no, not really. But you believed me when I said it. So obviously we walked through it seamlessly enough. But it was really cool whenever Jason was doing that. So basically he said you got to have a green screen behind you, which I didn't put mine up right now, but have a green screen behind you so you're not translucent, and then just pull the pictures up, have them pulled up and click through them as you're talking. And it's a really cool visual effect.
By the way, this is not a Corona thing only. This is just where we're going to be moving to.
Yep.
So the quicker, okay. So he's sharing that. I want to share this with you. This is going to become very important. In fact, and put this in your brain. This hit me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I realized that Simon Sinek he shared up this too, which is called the law of the infusion and law of the infusion and of innovation. And so, and all it is that in our marketplace today, I'm going to share this with you all. We have. Let me move this out too. 1 sec. Okay, there we go. We're going to have your innovators. These are the people like right now, like what Jason's doing, and he's saying, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go ahead and just do something out there. We'll play with it. By the way, when Gary talks about being a disruptor, again, if you can see behind me, you'll notice that this is on the back of his drawboard. One of his ones is being disruptive versus growing organic. Right now, the question you should be asking yourself is, what can I do that's disruptive right now? Meaning what no one else is doing right at this moment. So that's being an innovator. The next part is, even though you didn't think of the idea, is how quickly you choose to become an early adopter. So the law of diffusion innovation says the following, that until we get to about 17%, that's the tipping point where then you'll see the rest, the early majority will come in, then the late majority, then the laggards, because they have no other choice, right? Like he said, the rotary dial's gone, so they have no choice but to go deal with the push button dial. Yet whatever that is for you is you got to choose, make a choice. You get in here, you get market share. You get in here, you get a little bit of market share. Here, you're just moving along with the rise of the tide. And here, well, you're out of the business. You just don't know it yet. Okay, so here's my point for you is spend the time and look at the things like what Casey just did with you. This is something more and more people will be doing. Just like Zoom now has become so popular. Well, in the beginning, there was a small group of us doing Zoom. And now everyone is using Zoom at this moment. But now what they're not doing is how they're thinking about using it as a leverage tool, like an education piece. When you're doing a seller presentation through Zoom, you could have different pieces besides your typical points that you would use for a presentation, where if you want to engage their thinking differently, what is it that you're going to show? Like what he just did. It was great. For me, with you all, I want to end with this, and that is, you get to make a choice today. when I said, do something that other people aren't doing right now, which is why don't you go and front load your listings for May? How many other people are doing that in your market center right now? Are there agents you know outside are like that? Just curious. I bet you very small, slim to none. And that's the opportunity. You get to be ahead of the other agents who are just following along the rest. The tide rises and they just float their boat with it. Versus you get to do something, you get to get it ahead of time and get your market share. Okay. So I'll stop sharing that for you. So remember that. You can look at the law of diffusion of innovation. It's just about how you choose to think and what other ways can you be disruptive that other people aren't doing. There's a team I'm coaching, another team in New York, and man, they've been killing it. Again, that's the team I shared earlier about. They're going to have their best May ever. Well, they're doing, did I tell you that? They're having their best May? Maybe that's another group I did with. Okay, it was an earlier group. So they're having, because she drew a line in the sand with her team and with herself and said, 2 months ago, we're not going to operate like this anymore. And here's how we're going to show up. And everyone did. They're having their best May ever for closings for everyone on their team and for her team itself. May's reflective of what they did 90 days ago. So what you're doing right now is what's going to be reflective 90 days ago. Well, what they're doing now to be disruptive is, and this is because they have a caring heart. One of her key people that's in her database happens to be an endocrinologist. And I guess he's the head of it. So there's 12 other docs that report to him, and there's 50 other nurses. And out of that grouping, the best thing they need right now in New York are masks. They've been using the same one over and over again. So they're making masks with shields, and they're doing 4,000 of them. And they're not just doing them themselves as a team. The team's doing it, but they incorporated other people in their database because they had a heart. They wanted to do the same thing to impact their community. So you see what she's done? And now you have other people. They gave them the materials and dropped them off, and they're just making them and putting them together, and then they're going to drop them off this weekend for these doctors and nurses. And now think about the community she's building, the trust that she's done with these doctors, and a relationship that will never go away. And he was dumbfounded. He said, "You want to do that for us?" She said, "That's the least thing we could do. You're in the front lines in New York. You're dealing with blah, 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 all these different deaths that he was sharing about. We want to do anything we can help. If this is one small way we can contribute back, we want to do that." That's being disruptive. There's not anyone else I know doing that, thinking out of the box of the community. As I shared with you, this other team that's in Austin, Texas, they're being disrupted by doing the Safe Seller program. And the same thing from the Safe Seller program, they're doing one for the buyer program. And it's all the things we know. They've now just put it into a small incremental system that now they've leveraged out there for the seller and the buyer to be aware of. And now it's just become a part of how they work. Do that fast. Be what? Be either the innovator, like this lady was, or be the early adopter. You win and get a market share, meaning your business grows. And I'm living proof of that. Back in 2000, I did it in 2001. We did it in 2007, and we never stopped. We never looked back. We kept growing. So hopefully this was helpful. I know we're wrapping up the last 2 minutes. I would like to hear from anyone who wants to take themselves off of mute also. Just give some takeaways.
I think for me, it's just putting together what I need to accept and get done right away after this call.
Great.
Make some changes.
Beth, and who do you want to share that with and once you've done that?
I'm going to share it with Brooke.
Cool. You got it. Great. Who else? Dawn, you want to send something by because I can tell you're somewhere else. Want to send something by chat? Go ahead and add that in there. Who else?
I'd like to get a background going. Thought that was pretty cool.
It is, isn't it? Uh-oh.
It makes it more fun too. That way you're just not sitting here looking at each other the whole time. Like it just gets more engaging.
Yep, it is.
Just gotta learn how to do it and put it into Zoom or.
We'll get done by this week.
Yep.
Great. Who else?
Brooke.
I can. Well, go ahead, but I can tell you real quick how you do it.
Cool. Who else?
Wait, what are we sharing right now? An action
Just
item?
about what you're committing to, what you get out of this time and what are you going to commit to do?
Okay, so one of my ideas I had for a while was to create a Dream 50 list of 50 people that encounter our clients before us, and attorneys is a big part of that. And so just compiling a list of attorneys that I can reach out to and build relationships with on a virtual basis.
Great. And then how many specifically do you want to have conversations with on a weekly basis?
Exactly. There will be a whole communication plan that goes with this list.
That's a system. Put the system in play. I love that. And who do you want to have of her like that you want to share that with once you're done?
I'm going to do with Beth and Jorge.
Love it.
Awesome.
Okay. We got 1 more minute. Who else wants to jump in?
I'll go. So earlier I saw somebody post an article on News Station. At the very beginning, we were talking about be the student and educate our people. So I was debating on how to start that conversation on Facebook, but I'm going to be committed to posting something by this evening on that.
Love that you're doing that, Alexandria. I started doing that my Facebook group as a coach for all the people I'm coaching with, and started that 2 weeks ago. Never done it before. I've always just used Facebook as a side thing, and now it's fun to watch it becoming really intentional with the masterminding at this higher level and what they're doing with one another. So I like that you're doing that. Great to be the difference maker on that.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks.
So here's what I like you to do is that just make sure that you make a choice at the end of this call today that you're going to do something with what you learned today. Okay. Don't make this educational. Death by Zoom, I call it. And there's a lot of death by Zoom can happen. We can be a professional student and not a doer of the business. Make sure that you're going to put things into action. Agreed?
Agreed.
All right. Thank you all. You all rock. Take care.